Hello and welcome to Metro AVTechTips. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And we're live.
We are live. It turns out that when we had that technical difficulty, the timer kept going, but the player did not keep going. So we are live, everybody.
Hi. Welcome to Metro AVTechTips.
Yes.
We're going to do this again. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And it's Wednesday.
It is actually Wednesday.
Thinking maybe it's really a Monday.
It really feels like it sometimes.
Because that's the way. Little background. He and I are both traveling a lot over the next month.
Yes.
So in order to facilitate having our Wednesday shows, we decided we'll tape a couple.
Correct.
You know, do our usual thing, but a little pre-production work. And unfortunately, the one we got pretty much all the way through this morning, but it quit recording about halfway through.
Actually, we lost quite a bit of our video that we had. And
don't know why.
Don't entirely know why. But
and then it failed again this afternoon.
And it failed again just before we went live, and so I've actually had to reboot the actual switcher that actually lets us go live, which is what caused the whole everything else.
Since we're talking about that, because you guys had an interesting scenario and very similar last week.
Yeah.
And this really falls into what we do. It's not today's show, but it is today's show.
Yeah, and basically what so there's a little bit of again additional backstory behind this. So we have if anybody who's familiar with our company and how we operate, there's two divisions. There's our division, the Metro AV division, and then there's also the original Metro Electronics division, and that's
12 volt,
the 12
almost 80 years old,
colloquially called the 12 volt side. So these two sides of the company, we operate within feet of each other. I mean, we're all in the same building essentially, and we swap,
share some offices.
We share some offices, and we share equipment and whatever else. So the 12 volt R&D department was giving a training lesson, not so different from what we do here, and they borrowed our camera. Now
they were training on a Wi-Fi based LED control system for the car.
Yep.
With iPads and tablets.
I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's one of their DSPs.
Okay.
But long story short is that they were given a training lesson on that device, and when they went live, now luckily it wasn't a live like we go live, it was a live to an interviewer, a Zoom meeting essentially, and it didn't work. It had worked. They had their tablet and everything was there, and everything was messed up with it. And in fact, there's more to the story. But they had their tablet and they had a cell phone. Now the tablet would not work, but the cell phone would work. However, they were using the tablet to get the video into the stream in order for them to see it. Not so dissimilar from what we do with the iPad. Now, what happened though is that it didn't work. It worked on the phone, but it didn't work on the tablet. So of course that was not great. And we then came back. This was on Friday. We got our camera back because we were going to go live to showcase the ASP603W, which you'll notice that we did not release an ASP603W video.
We'll get to that in a second.
And the reason is that as I went live, as I was trying to showcase the ASP603W, I could not get our iPad to work correctly to get the system working the way that it's supposed to.
Because it signs into an app to control the 603W.
Correct. So it also uses Bluetooth, and this is important, it uses Bluetooth to make the connection first, and then it starts to communicate separately. So when it didn't work here, it worked on my phone. Now, went back and we're laughing about it because one of our video technicians, Trent, was in person for both cases, and the same thing happened in both cases. So we joked about it and said, it's Trent. It's his fault. He's got maybe he's got a metal plate in his head or whatever it is. He's got
not that there's anything wrong with having a metal plate in your head.
Are you speaking from experience? So, what we joked about it. Now, Jason, which has been on our videos before, is stopped for a moment and he said, Trent, go and hook that back up again, and I want you all to go through and do all of this because while we were doing our video, they were trying to find out what was wrong and why it didn't work because it continued to work while we were doing our video.
Yeah, when they're over there doing their thing, we're doing our thing, theirs worked perfectly.
Yeah.
No issues. Ours failed.
Yeah.
So now Trent goes and gets everything.
Yep.
Takes everything back over there and...
it fails. So we're racking our brain trying to find out whatever it is. Trent just so happens to go through the menu of this camera, the one that we're actually using to view right now. This is one of the Blackmagic. It's the 4K, not the Ursa. I forget what it's the 4K something. I forget what it is. But anyway, so we have this camera. This is the one. So he goes to the menu because he's trying to find, like, maybe there's a networking thing. I'm asking them if there's some kind of like RFI or EMI radiation that maybe it could be giving off, and if we have a scanner that could read for that or anything. Nothing like that we had to check for it. Lo and behold, Bluetooth. These cameras have Bluetooth, and we had no idea. The Bluetooth was on, and it was walking all over both setups. Now, the only reason that we can think of that the phone worked and the iPad and the Android tablet did not is because on a phone you have multiple radios that do different things, or they can make multiple connections on the Bluetooth, because now you can have Bluetooth to your car and to a headset, or to multiple headsets, or whatever it is. That's a new feature of it. So maybe that was just connecting to the camera and then also connecting to the secondary one for the other stuff. So all that was happening, but the story of all of this is anyways, they turned off Bluetooth, tested that, and it worked fine. As soon as they turned Bluetooth on, it stopped working. Now, we have another one of these cameras. We turned the Bluetooth off or on that one and off on this one. Same thing happened. So we knew what the problem was now, and we knew what to do moving forward. But this is something. This is a tale of what's that called? It's like the
tale of woe and caution.
Caution. That's the word I was looking for. It's a tale of caution.
This is what happens in our industry.
Yes.
And frequently, it's things that you have no control over, things outside of your system, are affecting your installation. And how do you find them?
So that when it just so happened, we were lucky, is really what it came down to, because when it didn't work, they said, we're really sorry, we're going to have to reschedule and do the video on Tuesday, or do the interview on Tuesday. Well, if we had just so happened to not be doing that episode on Friday, we never would have known. It would have worked perfectly fine, and then they would have gone live, and the same thing would have happened.
Because they would have borrowed our camera again.
Exactly. So what that says is that sometimes when you're doing your system design, and when you're setting things up, and when you're getting it all working, and you're trying to find out, you run into a problem, and trying to find out, why is this not working? Sometimes, and I'm the type of person myself.
I think it's more than some.
Most of the time, my assumption is that I've done something wrong.
We are, and it's programming.
Yeah.
It's something I've done, or a bad connection, but programming, something I've done, programming, something I've done.
Yeah.
And just in case I didn't mention it, programming or something I've done.
Right. And honestly, this is not coming from the tech support side. This is coming from, as an integrator, it's so much easier to handle, to talk with tech support when I'm going to them saying, I'm pretty sure I screwed up somewhere. Can you help me out and look at this?
Because the chances are
I have. Yeah, exactly. So, but the point is that sometimes it's not. And unfortunately, the scary part of this is that sometimes you're going to have to stumble across whatever the problem is.
Kind of by accident.
So this is us explaining to you, if you're running into a wireless control of some kind problem, check and make sure that there's no devices in the area that may have Bluetooth. And especially the ones that you think, there's no way that thing has Bluetooth. Check it anyways.
Yeah. Well, and not completely off topic, but slightly. Years ago, we ran into issues on URC base stations where they would quit functioning.
Yeah.
The guys would press the remotes and suddenly it's not working. It took a while to figure out why. It was bad HDMI cables.
Right.
Improperly shielded, generated so much noise, it walked over what the remote was doing.
Yep.
So don't automatically assume it's something you've done.
Right.
Now, there's a good chance it probably is you. At least in this case, it's probably us.
Well, and again, that's not coming from the tech support. Thank you for calling Metro AV Tech Support.
We don't want to help you.
This is coming from
personal
us as integrators. These are personal experiences that we've run into. Now, if you call us and you don't say that, and you do think that it's our product, that's fine. We're still going to work with you. We're still going to find out what the problem is. But
it does happen.
It does happen.
But again, more importantly, it may not be anything to do with you or what you're doing that's causing this issue. And this is something we fight that's like, we deal with it a lot on 110 issues.
Yeah.
High voltage problems affecting low voltage.
Correct. Yeah.
So know that it's out there. Now, Which kind of actually leads us into today's problem, which is cloud-based automation.
Right.
Kinda.
So before we get into that, of course, let's go ahead and do our spiel and everything. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions about whatever it is that we're talking about, please feel free to leave it over in the chat section over there. If you are watching this after the fact, of course, leave it down in the comment section below. We are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and hopefully very soon we'll be live on LinkedIn as well. We're working that out. So if you would do us a favor, if this video was helpful for you, share it out to all other dealers that you know, or friends, neighbors, anybody else who's dealing with something like this. Go ahead and send it out to them. But use this also as a tool for yourself, because what we're going to be talking about today goes into surveillance recording and where is it recorded, and specifically the pros and cons of each one, right? This is something that, as someone who installs cameras and surveillance systems,
and does tech support for them.
And does tech support them. This is something that's to be considered during that time. So, Leo, it's always good to see you in the chat, sir. Stay tuned for that question. We are always working towards the next best product, and what's our canned response, our Metro, our official Metro response to.
We're working on the next best thing.
We're always working on the next best thing.
We really can't tell you what we're doing, but
we're always working on the next best thing.
Yeah. What was his question? What's the next best thing?
Moving on.
Okay.
So, everyone. So, today's topic, specifically, is on... Oh, you're in trouble. It's you.
It's on it's Spring Central.
That's what it is.
Yep.
Local versus cloud surveillance.
Now, this is kind of important because why are we having this discussion?
So, what's amazing about this is that this is one of the few occurrences where a problem like this has escaped our industry and has actually spread out into the mainstream and is in front of a lot of people. And this is creating a lot of questions for a lot of people. Insteon, if you have not seen the news, Insteon recently, within the past week and a half or so,
2 weeks ago on a Friday,
they up and vanished just overnight.
Literally,
poof. To the point where even the executives went onto their LinkedIn profiles and removed the history of ever
any
working
connection
for them.
to scrubbed.
Yeah, exactly. So it got really bad. Now, one of the things that with this happening has created is this question of how good is cloud-based solutions, or how secure, how safe, or how
they're good till they're not.
Well, then that's kind of it, because if we have a device, let's say, for instance, I buy this laptop. Actually, we were talking about this also.
Chromebook this morning, just this afternoon.
So, if you were to go out and buy a Windows laptop, when you buy that Windows laptop continues to function regardless of whether or not it's connected to the internet or not. It can still be used. You can still take a file or a program and put it on a thumbstick and plug it into it and run it from that way. Or if you do connect it to the internet, it has the capabilities of going online and getting what it needs and operating as an online device. Is it limited when it's not connected? Yes.
Yeah, you're not going to Google the internet.
Sure. But is it still an operating machine?
Absolutely. You can still do programming if your code's in it. You can still write Word docs. You can still do everything, play games, everything it does.
Now, Google Chromebooks, while they do have offline modes, they're designed to be connected to the internet. That's their whole, ideology behind their function. Their MO, their modus operandi. So, were you surprised I knew what that meant?
Yeah, actually, yes.
Okay. So
I'd give you kudo, but I handed them all out earlier.
Yeah, pretty much. So when we look at the idea of what happened with Insteon is the fact that they provided a service. They provided a hardware, right? They're a lighting company. They provided light switches that are replacing the normal light switches with their own pieces. They talk to a central hub and then talk to the internet, and then they talk to a server. Now, from what I understand, the light switches still continue to operate at like a light switch. They're still light switches. Yes, they still operate like a light switch. However, any kind of remote access, smart access, or
timered programming
or anything like that is gone if it loses connection to the server. Now, the server is not... When we say the cloud isn't really a cloud that's just ambiguously there. It's a... Did I use that right? I did.
You did.
It's not just there. It's a physical box somewhere. It's a physical
has to
device.
sit somewhere plugged into the internet.
Right. And so the thing is that most of the time those cloud servers are owned by and located at the company that created the software or created the device or whatever it is. So when they go out of business, that server doesn't continue to operate unless someone has been given the code to be able to continue to operate it separately.
And pays the bills to keep it running.
Right, which happens. That's actually a thing that a lot of gamers do when old games get turned down or turned off or whatever. There's many times where the community will band together and work on keeping the servers alive elsewhere. And so then they can continue
just
to play.
migrate it over. And
sure. Yeah. Now, usually there's a little bit of hacking involved with making the game look at a different address or whatever. But the point is that it can be done. But the problem is in something like Instian's case, no one's going to benefit from doing that other than the people who are using Instian. And unfortunately, the majority of people using Instian don't have the know-how or the ability to go through and create.
Or more
their own
importantly,
server.
the financial desire to foot the bill for that. And
yeah.
Effectively, that's what, of course, when you read the most recent press release, the usual pandemic supply chain issues. But
right.
They've been in trouble financially since 2017, which certainly predates the pandemic.
Yeah. And they were looking for they were actually looking for a buyer. This is actually a new news article that you found today. Mm-hmm. They were looking for a buyer as late as November. And one was supposed to go through in March, and it just so happened that it fell through, and it didn't happen, and so they ran out of money, and they just shut down. So, all that to say, this is another one of those.
But they're not the only ones. Remember when Home Depot and Lowe's separately went into the automation business?
Oh, the little Winks
or
Wink
and Iris and
yeah,
and they just poof.
Yeah.
So it is a concern anytime you are doing cloud-based now, and we certainly, in our world, it's Ring and Nest and these other guys. And fortunately, currently, both of those are backed by large, deep-pocketed organizations.
Right.
But you know what? So was AOL.
Yeah.
It was a large, deep-pocketed organization till it wasn't.
Right.
So was Yahoo. Big, deep-pocket organizations that one day weren't.
They're just gone. Well, they're not gone, but they're not as large as they were, and the services that they were offering at the time probably are just not there anymore.
Right. So it is certainly a concern you should have as a security professional.
So these are things that we are concerned about with the cloud services, but what are some of the benefits of a cloud-based service? One of the main ones that I can see is that in the event of a catastrophe of some measure locally to where the equipment would be, the cloud is in a different geographic location, and in many cases is multiplied in multiple locations, so that you don't have to worry about if one gets destroyed, am I going to lose all my data?
Right, everything.
It's spread out, which is a huge benefit because anybody who's in IT and server and backups and whatever else, you can understand that. In fact, our own server system that we have here, it failed. But the point is that we actually created a backup system that's multi-tiered and multi-location. We have multiple servers, multiple servers spread around. We have them in multiple locations
with redundant backups,
either our own locations or in other locations that we pay for. But it's multiple backups, and they're redundant backups, and we have we have hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly backups. And as far as I understand, there's also even further out than that, from what I understand. Not as many, but much further out.
And we still have physical ones that are backed up and put in a safe.
Yes, exactly. So that's one of the biggest benefits with a cloud-based system is that it's not, it can't be stolen. It can't be, it can be hacked, but it can't be physically stolen. You can't have someone to go in there with that. So
didn't you watch Mission Impossible?
Yeah, right. So how do we tie this back into surveillance, right? So there's different types of storage capabilities and different storage locations when it comes to surveillance systems.
From my standpoint, I utilize both systems.
Sure.
And, I have a Ring camera at my front door. And I like the Ring camera at my front door because it does a great job announcing. Yep. Now, is it instantaneous? No. And if anything happens between my house and the internet, can I see what's going on? No. I also have a SpyClops system, 8 cameras, with hard drive and UPS.
Right.
The reason I have that is, even if I lose internet, I'm still functioning.
Right.
Even if I lose power, I'm still functioning.
Right.
So anything happens to the house, I may not be able to see it that very moment.
Right.
But I can certainly review the events.
Yes. I just want to double check and make sure that I'm marking this here right so I know where I'm drawing. Okay, so when it comes to surveillance, there's 3 different things, in my mind anyway, there's 3 different ways to go about doing this with those 2 types of storage situations.
Okay.
So the first one that I see is the traditional NVR, DVR, it's stored locally on site or whatever else it is.
Hard drive, NAS, whatever.
So that one's pretty straightforward. So we've got our DVR and or NVR. So our DVR NVR would be on site. Now, whenever I want to view this DVR NVR, I can go to it directly through some kind of monitor of some kind. Yep, like that. I can go directly to the monitor and do that. That's a pretty good monitor. And that's
Actually,
right
I'm impressed.
right? So I can go directly to it using the monitor from the on-screen interface from the DVR and NVR. Now, in many cases, we can also do something like port forwarding and access this directly via the port forwarding over maybe a web browser or another service like that, and so we can access it directly. Now, there's also this is just one way. Now, all the video is stored locally on this one device here, which means that we have a hard drive. Let's see if I can do well, no, that's not a very good hard drive. I was getting there.
That's still not a good hard drive.
No.
It should be a stack of circles.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So you got a hard drive there that's stored locally, and all the video is stored on that one hard drive, right? So that means that everything is there, everything's in that one location, right? So then there's another way to do this, right? So we've got our camera system. Let's do. I'm not going to do anything special. We got our camera, right? With this camera here,
That looks like a speaker.
it talks to. Oh my gosh, It talks over the internet. I put that in the wrong spot. Over the internet to the cloud, right? Mm-hmm. So what this does, though, is this is taking the video that it's recorded and it's transmitting it up to the cloud. We'll get to the limitations of this in just a second because I want to talk about one other option as well.
Okay.
That's kind of an in-between. This option here, you'll have your DVR. This is starting to die. We'll have to get another marker here soon.
Switch to blue.
We have a DVR NVR. Live Pictionary. Yeah, that'd be fun. So a DVR NVR, right? Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Then what it does from here is it stores locally, but it also stores
Backups.
backups on the cloud over the internet, right? So with these 3 styles, what you run into is how does each one operate? What's the easiest way? Which one is easiest and which one is the most secure? Well, let's find out. Let's run this through and find out which ones. What's our pros and what's our cons? All right. So let's do pros. Is that on camera? It is on camera.
Yes, it is.
Pros, and let's do cons. This one's whoops.
No. Oh, that's right, because we're there on the
We're
broadcast.
there. Yes.
so yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So pros and cons. All right. So a pro for this here, right? For that's the first option here is
Completely
local.
independent, does not need internet. It's just fully self-contained. Have a nice day.
Right?
As long as you have a UPS on it, battery backup, you're good to go.
Right? Self-contained. Everything's right there. The cameras are directly connected to it. It's on. It could be on a network and communicating outside to if it wants to.
But doesn't have to.
But it doesn't have to. Everything's stored locally here. Now, like you said, it's self-contained. It's also, if it's not connected to the internet, right? Let's say we get rid of that. It's not necessarily a con, but let's say it's not connected to the internet. Well, guess what? If it's not connected to the internet, you can't hack it.
No. That's true. At least not without being local to the machine.
Not being local to the machine, exactly. So making sure, of course, that you don't have physical access to that machine is another matter entirely. Maybe putting
they
in a
walk off
lockbox
with
or
it.
whatever else. Yeah. So, but let's talk about the cons. So the cons for this, of course, are that it can be stolen.
Well, you put that under cons.
Well, I'm running out of, I don't want to run out of space for over here.
Okay.
It can be stolen, right?
No remote viewing.
No remote viewing. But if it's connected to the internet, you could remote
Okay,
view
but if it's connected to the internet, it can be hacked.
Well, here's the thing. If, let's say it is connected to the internet, now you have to go through a lot of work and effort to do the port forwarding. Let's see. Difficult
Setup.
remote setup. Okay? It's difficult to set up the remote setup. Now, someone who's been doing this for a while, it's probably not that difficult, because if you understand the networking of it and whatever else, that's perfectly fine. And many, many, many people who are in that position, who understand how that works, prefer to do that, because they want to have direct control over that, because they probably have it going through a very strict firewall. Maybe they have it set up in a certain way that they don't want automation systems to accidentally step on it. Whatever else. So that's something that a lot of people, this is an old way of doing it. It's a traditional way of doing it, but it's also probably one of the most utilized and most stable. And especially when you look at, if you talk to anybody in IT, they're probably doing it that way, right? Okay, so what about the cloud? Cloud, there we go, local.
Number one, remote viewing.
Remote viewing, super easy, right? It's an account-based remote viewing. This would be like your Ring camera. This would be like the Nest, Arlo, whatever else. So you have remote viewing. That's really great. Guess what? It can't be stolen.
At least the data. Oh, well, it can be stolen, but it's still visible.
Correct. The data is still there. The data is still back. It's still on the cloud, right? Which is great. That means that if someone were to take my camera that I have mounted above my garage, they can steal that camera all they want, but I still have video of them stealing my camera. So we're perfectly fine there. It can't be stolen. What are some other pros?
Generally cost, because you don't have a DVR in VR.
Cost is low.
So your upfront costs are low. That's the correct statement. Upfront costs are low.
Upfront. We'll update this a little bit here.
And ease of installation, because it's wireless. Generally, all you have to do is get power there.
Ooh, this is a good one. Let's see. Leo is saying not paying a monthly for data storage. Let's see. No monthly fee. Right?
Well, that's just anti-American.
Well, and here's the thing.
Monthly fee.
Fee.
And don't forget to pay it.
Yeah, because guess what? If you don't pay it, well, usually they have a grace period before they actually get rid of the data. But the thing is that if you don't pay it, nothing's getting backed up, and you may not be able to access it. But nothing's happening, or nothing's getting backed up when that's happening. Here's another con for all of this. Or let's go back over here to the pros of this one. One of the pros here, guess what? Constant recording.
Yeah, the only limit there is your hard drive.
Correct. Right? Con here is that this is only doing snippets of recording, right? That's a huge thing. That's something that you don't have the ability for these cameras. Just the amount of data that you would have to transmit constantly up to the cloud would eat up your bandwidth.
Something else I want to throw in this one. Multiple cameras are much easier to support here.
Multi-camera.
Yes. Large installations.
That's right, Leo. No
installations.
Yeah, no pay, no data. Small installations. Well, now here's the thing. I would almost call this one kind of like an in-between for the small installations. Because here's the thing. If I don't need a large installation, if I need one camera, that for me, that's kind of a pro. If I can just go out and pick up one single camera and plug it in and just be
understand,
done.
but that is
right.
That's a two-edged sword. Because wiring is simpler. All you got to do is get power there.
Yeah.
We're not worried about feeding back to a central location.
Right.
Okay, you can do Wi-Fi cameras on the top one, but
sure. Yeah, you don't normally want to.
The middle one's typically a simpler installation.
Right. So you've got your local installation. We've got pros for that one: self-contained, can't hack, no monthly fee, constant recording, multi versus large installations. Some of the cons for that one is that the physical hard drive can be stolen. They can't hack. This is only a pro if you don't have it connected to the internet.
So there's an asterisk on that.
Yeah. So there's asterisk. Right. The cons: it's difficult to set up remote viewing.
To do it properly.
To do it correctly, yes.
Particularly for a DIY or a new integrator.
Yeah, and this is something that, as an integrator, you should learn. You should take the time to learn how to do port forwarding correctly, because it's not only beneficial for surveillance systems, it's also beneficial for other systems overall to understand how it works.
And by the way, go back and view one of our excellent shows on VPN, subnets, and setting up your networks.
That's right. So now we have this last option down here at the bottom. It's kind of a mix between both worlds.
I believe the word's hybrid.
It's a hybrid. Yeah, it's a hybrid. Okay. With a hybrid system, we have the pros of pretty much all of these, right? We have it's self-contained, right?
Can be. It's not wholly, but it is wholly, but not.
I'm going to leave the can't hack out of this one
because at this point we're connected to the internet.
You're connected to the internet. And the no monthly fee. I'm going to leave this in here, right? Because this is kind of an asterisk, and I'll get back to that here in a little bit.
Okay.
Constant recording, right? Constant recording. That's a big thing. Being able to record 24/7 if you want to. We did an episode a while back about making sure that you have your system tuned for the installation, because
size of hard drive versus refresh rate,
size of hard drive, refresh rate, location of the cameras, and the importance of what it's trying to capture. Because if you have a camera at the front door, for me, 24 hours a day, I want that thing recording, and I want it at a high resolution because I want to see who's coming up to the front door at all times. There's also where I want some cameras not. I want them on motion only. So, but having the ability to have constant recording, that's a really big thing. We're going to leave out the can't be stolen, but we're going to put in remote viewing.
Oh, by the way, a pro on this one is larger storage capability.
Larger storage. Upgradable storage, too.
And this is entirely fee-based on the size. Fee-based storage.
Yeah, fee-based storage.
Oh, it's amazing what we learn as we go along, isn't it?
All right, and just keep adding to it and keep adding to it. So all these things here, right? So we've got, let's see, upgradable storage. I'm just going to do this because I'm being lazy now. Multiple and large installations. Got that one there. All the pros of the cloud one are not really so much. The remote viewing is definitely one, because guess what? Now we're on the cloud, right? Can't be stolen. It can be stolen technically, but here's the thing. There's an asterisk with that one, right?
Because you have the storage until it's gone.
You have the storage until it's gone. Can't be stolen. Asterisk.
Now, here's the thing on storage. One of the things, when you have a stack of cameras from Ring or Nest or somebody like that, each one of those is its own individual device. So it adds up in a hurry.
Yeah.
If you're coming off of this, you're seeing the machine, not the individual cameras.
Right.
So your storage size for multiple cameras shrinks dramatically.
Well, and really it's the bandwidth, because you're cutting down on the number of streams going out to the cloud.
Right.
Now,
so if you've got 4 of these,
yep.
Well, in my house I have 3 rings.
Sure.
2 on the drive and 1 on the door, plus 8 hard cameras.
Right.
Those 3 cameras, if somebody triggers both the drive ones and then walks into the front door with the overlap, that's a fair amount of bandwidth.
Right. Yeah. So let's look at the cons. We have the option of a monthly fee, right?
But the fee is going to be lower for your amount of cameras.
Right. So, well, and again, depends on storage. This one does, we can have snippets. That's a pro.
And a con.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm running I'm off camera over here.
Hence the little line right there.
Yep. Snippets.
You could put it on top.
I could do that. We'll do this. There we go. Snippets. There we go. So we've got snippets. That's a pro, because being able to record snippets to the cloud, right? That's a big thing.
Let's look at another thing. If you have a control system, it's harder to integrate this than this.
Yes.
And if you have a control system, the ability to see this on your touch panels or your handheld tablet is a plus.
Yes. Automation integration, right? Self-contained. Honestly, this one's pretty good. This one's looking pretty good. Now, here's the thing. I'm talking about this, I'm almost talking about this as something that we don't have. Technically, we do have this. We don't have the cloud storage, and so some of these things we do lose on that one. But we don't have a monthly fee, so we have that one gone. It's self-contained, constant recording, remote viewing. But really what it comes into is the remote viewing. So when you look at the remote viewing systems, whoop, you're making a mess over there.
I am. Fortunately, it was off camera.
There we go. So when we look at the hybrid system where you have local device and the cloud, right? Use, for example, our SpyClops or our SpyClops Pro systems. With SpyClops Pro, you have a DVR. You have a DVR or an NVR, or pardon me, it's NVR and XVR is what we operate with now. But we have an XVR and an NVR that the cameras communicate to first, right? The cameras send the video and audio. We now have audio cameras as well. They send that information back to the NVR and XVR. The XVR then records that information onto an internal hard drives. Now, you can purchase them without a hard drive, and that's fine too if you just want it for remote viewing purposes, which we'll get to in a second. But you can also expand the hard drive space inside of these to allow for more. Can you add a
NAS drive to or RAID to our system?
Not currently. Not currently. But the thing is that we still have a physical hard drive in there, and we have had dealers that were actually taking hard drives out and storing them separately physically for longer storage, and then if they need to use something, overwrite. Correct. If they need to use them, they'll put them back into it and review it, or they'll cycle that through and overwrite. So, yeah, it really does. Leo made a good point. Exporting the video, and
which has gotten much easier on the pros.
It has. And here's the thing: also with remote viewing for the cloud-based systems, where they're only cloud-based, it's a lot easier to view the recordings, but to actually store the recordings back onto your own device, from what I understand, it's a little bit more difficult, because I don't know if you own that video.
With the Net, I can't speak for, with the Ring, I can't speak for Nest. With the Ring, you can absolutely.
Okay, great. So what it comes down to, though, is that we have a kind of a mix. We're using cloud on ours for viewing purposes. And what that allows us to do is we don't have to do port forwarding. We don't have to be on the same network in order to view those cameras.
Which means it's a tad bit more secure.
Right. It's account-based, which means that if you move from, let's say you drop your phone in the lake and you need to go buy a new phone, you can sign in with your account and everyth's still there.
Assuming you have your sign-in.
Assuming you have that. If not, give us a call. We can work through that. So these are all things that as you design or as you decide on the best type of surveillance system for your account, thank you, as you or for your project, take into consideration those things. Are you going to need to have storage local to the site, or is it okay for everything to be stored off-site? Do you need 24/7 recording, or is it okay to just have snippets of motion?
Or honestly, do you do a split between them as I've done?
Kind of a shared thing.
A shared thing.
So really what yours is you have more of a alert system, and then you have a surveillance system.
And that's exactly what it is. The drive cameras are there to start my automation, turn the lights on the side of the house.
Yep.
And on it, when you walk out the front door, it does the same.
Yep.
If the light sensor says, okay, it's time, I tied it in with my automation.
Yep.
It will turn on the lights on the sidewalk if they aren't already on.
Right.
That's a great functionality.
Yeah.
Plus, it will alert me, for shipments and, UPS, whatever.
Sure.
I can validate, hey, it's there, it's placed where it should be.
Now, Ring is the one that's with Amazon.
Yes.
Are they the ones that have it to where when they deliver a package and it like automatically ties in with your Ring system?
I haven't.
Okay. That's kind of an interesting idea.
Because Amazon sends you announcements anyway. They email you. It's like, hey, your package arrived with a photo of it at your doorstep.
Right. So when you do these hybrid systems, what should they look like, or how should they be set up? And a lot of that comes down to like you're saying, where with yours, you have the announcement systems or the alert
honestly,
systems.
Honestly, the Ring for me is exactly that. I rarely look at the Ring.
Right.
I get a notification, hey, blah, 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 this has happened. And if it's outside of what I expect to happen at a given time, then I can look at it. The video surveillance is something has happened, something has changed, I'm missing something.
Right.
Okay, now let's look at events.
Right. Yeah.
That's what surveillance does for you. It is actual security of your property in person.
You have the recording of something happening.
A Ring or a Nest or something like that to me is, you got kids, okay, the kids are home from school.
Now, do they have recording? Yes, they do. They have the ability to record snippets onto the cloud, and depending on the service plan that you have, the snippets can be short or long or whatever the storage is.
But it gets a little pricey in a hurry.
Yeah.
And if you have more than a couple of cameras, it gets very expensive in a hurry. And if the one advantage to that is if you have multiple locations, you can put, at least from a viewing standpoint, and we can do it also.
Right.
With SpyClops, you can see all the cameras on one app and one setup.
That's right.
Instead of having to open multiple instances. But you can also do that with SpyClops.
Yeah, correct. So,
which is a great function.
That's one of the biggest benefits for a system that's a little bit more of a hybrid system, because you can have a little bit of the best of both. You do have the ability to have motion recordings. You do have the ability to have 24/7 recordings.
Timed recordings, triggered recordings, because our NVR, DVRs have external triggers.
Yep. Yeah, so they can tie into, if you have an alarm system, they can be tied in both directions, so the alarm can trigger the surveillance, or the surveillance can trigger the alarm. I'm more of a surveillance of the alarm triggering the surveillance rather than the other way around, because I don't want my a moth to trigger the police coming to my house.
Well, and particularly with the ability to set up a follower. I had an event happen here, and now let's set these cameras in motion to track.
Right.
That's awesome.
This is a really good point. The experts are saying, is it pricey if I don't have to pay someone money to install it? So I like where you're going.
Depends on how.
Yeah, right. So see where that's going. So, and that is a pro and a con for both, actually, if you think about it. Because is it pricey if you have to then pay someone to install a 4-channel or an 8-channel system that's a surveillance system that's going into your house, or is it the upfront cost? Yeah, it is more expensive.
Okay, you and I both know how many people start their own automation and then realize they're not qualified to do it.
Yes.
At which point they have to pay somebody to come in and clean up the mess they've created.
Yes.
That just went off. So, do it yourself isn't always cheaper.
No, it's not. But the thing is, and 100%, I fully understand that. So the experts are saying that they're not an advocate for Ring, and I mean, obviously neither are we, because we're
selling SpyClops.
But the point is that
it's out there.
It's out there, and truth be told, yeah, honestly, if you need one camera, it might be the best option. If you need one camera that's just doing snippets or just alerting you when something's there, perfect. Go that direction. But if you need something where you need to monitor and maintain your entire facility or your entire house, it's really not. It's not the correct use for that. Let's see. Ooh, interesting. Leo saying, deep in the fine print, you cannot install Nest cameras, video doorbells, and drop cams beyond the maximum of 10 per home.
Okay, that's 3 times more than I would ever consider putting in a.
But the thing is that the video quality depends on your internet service. Even with a 1 gig up down, you will cripple a system for Google, and that's actually very true. That's one of the main things of that is if you were to take a larger number system, so let's just use 8 cameras as an example.
That's a big system.
If you're doing 24/7 cloud backup, the amount of storage or the amount of bandwidth that you are using, let alone what your service provider is going to allow you to use, because that's really what it comes down to. It'll work, because think about it. You were watching 4K Netflix and 4K YouTube and Hulu and whatever else, and you're doing that 4 times across for that, and it's different compressions. They have a little bit better compressions, but the point is that you're not doing it constantly. You're doing it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, depending if you're in a slump or not. But that's only for a period of time, and then it stops. With camera systems, if you're backing those up to the cloud 24/7, your service provider at a certain point will actually begin to throttle you and start shutting you down. Well, I've run into this myself personally. I have other people that I've spoken with that have also run into similar options or similar problems. Now, it's less nowadays. This was probably, 7 years ago, when that was actually happening.
Well, you're running porn servers at your house?
No. But the thing is that it happens. That's something that you have to be aware of, and that's one of the reasons that they don't have 24/7 recording is the amount of bandwidth that you have to have for that number of cameras. Now think about it. 10 cameras at 1080p resolution. We know what 1080p resolution does at uncompressed. We're looking at 1080p. We're looking at 10 gigs or it's
365 for 1080p.
Yeah, 365. Pardon me. Where was I at?
10 gigs. You were thinking 4K.
Oh, you could do
1080p is 365 on HDMI.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Anyways,
you were doing math again, weren't you?
I was doing math live on air. That's the problem.
I believe the edict is for you to not do math on air.
That's what we've learned, right? So, why did my lap? There it goes. So when you look at the bandwidth that's required for devices like that and the video quality, now it is a compressed video, but the amount of bandwidth that's going to chew up for your uploads, that's a lot.
Let's assume you've got 10 cameras and your 2 kids decide they're going to watch Amazon Prime 4K HDR simultaneously. What's going to happen?
Well, you're going to get some buffering.
I'm just asking.
From one direction or the other.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. So it's going to come down to your decision on this, but this is one of the things that you need to consider when you're designing these systems. Should you do local storage? Should you do cloud storage? Should you do a mixture of both?
In my opinion, you should always do local.
Yeah.
Not because we sell video surveillance, but because I want a real, I can touch it, storage that is somewhat protected, and I don't want somebody going out of business and everything I've got gone.
And that's one of the big things, because think about it. Let's say Google is known for this.
And they still get DDoSs.
Constantly. Well, but they're also known for this constantly. They have created a service. If anybody's used Google Play Music, like I used to, they had a really great service.
Was this on your Zune?
No. Yes. Zune was a better music player than iPod ever was.
Wait, did you have your DirecTV Microsoft satellite receiver with the dual tuners and recording capabilities too?
I had the Betamax plugged in next to it too.
Just asking.
So it's better technology. That doesn't mean that it's the technology that wins. But with the service, Google is renowned for this, in that they create this service and they get a bunch of people paying money for it, and then they shut it down.
Oh, this past week, CNN Plus.
Oh yes,
less than a month old.
Yeah, just shut down.
Gone.
So the thing is with that is that and especially if you have something like surveillance, it can be gone in a moment. Now, taking that and talking about spy collapse. Now, of course, our goals are not to go anywhere for a very long time.
I need a job.
But the thing is that in the event that we go away, those surveillance systems continue to work. You can do port forwarding on our surveillance systems, and they continue to operate. You can
replace the hard drives.
You can replace the hard drives. You can replace the cameras with other cameras. It's doable. And so the point is that personally, I'm with you on that local storage, minimum local storage. But then having the ability to remotely access it through a cloud-based service or an account-based service, it makes a huge difference. The experts are saying what happens is if you have a fire, do you put the NVR in a fire blocking safe? No, because you're gonna overheat the NVR, and that's a pro for the cloud storage. If that does get destroyed in a fire or something else, you do have the cloud-based storage. But there's a handoff because you don't have 24/7 recording in that cloud service. But let's say you do a mix of it. You have both the local and the cloud.
Well, if you have a safe room in your house.
Leo says it comes back to the famous line, "How important is your security?" What was that from? That was Was that a movie?
Sounds like a movie.
Yeah. So, but yes, if you, that's kind of what it comes down to. How important is your security? How important is your surveillance? Is your surveillance important enough to where you are going to spend the extra money and effort to ensure that you have a fireproof room that all of your surveillance equipment goes into, but then you also have network backups, or you have monthly or daily or whatever else backups, or however you're going to do that. That's up to you on how you do that.
Is it tornado proof? Is it hurricane proof? Is it flood proof?
Sure. So I think that basically covers my portion of what I wanted to talk about with this.
So I think that was we're right on schedule too.
Yeah, I think so.
And by the way, this was an excellent show. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So everybody, thank you for joining us today. A little bit of housekeeping for the coming weeks. Both Brent and myself are traveling, you're going somewhere, then I'm going somewhere, then you're going somewhere, then I'm going somewhere.
You're going first.
So I am going first, actually. All
Tola.
right.
By the way, he's in
Tola.
Again, Dallas next week.
Yep.
You should go to the Tola show if you haven't already planned to.
Yep. We'll be in Dallas. We'll be at the Tola show the 5th and 6th.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Or is it Thursday, Friday?
Nope, it's Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday of next week in Dallas.
Yep.
Do you know where?
At the World Trade Center in Dallas.
Ooh.
Yeah, really fancy. This is actually my second year going. I'm really excited about it because if you ever get an opportunity to go to the World Trade Center in Dallas, you actually have to have an appointment to go inside to shop. And so it's super high end.
So are you going?
Furniture. I mean, I have an appointment, I guess. I mean, I get to go in the building. So
Ooh.
I am going to window shop while I am there because everything in there is way too expensive. And even though I make the big bucks on this YouTube channel, I still don't make enough to buy that stuff.
Wait, what?
Huh? You do what? No,
what?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Wait, what? And then the week after, I will be in Barcelona, Spain.
Yes.
For ISE.
Yes.
So please join me.
Randall Muncie saying, whichever you use, Tom Cruise can bypass it with a paperclip and a mirror and create a video loop.
And don't forget MacGyver.
MacGyver. Yes, exactly.
Or MacGruber.
Leo, he has the Metra card. I don't have the Metra card.
Okay, first off, no, I don't. I'm so tired of hearing about that invisible card.
All right,
just
everybody.
put it on your Metra. I don't have a Metra card.
So you're going to ISE. So I'm going to Tola next week. You're going to ISE the week after that. We
are
are
on
back
vacation.
We're back for a week.
One show.
Yep, for one show. Then I'm going on vacation.
Right.
Somehow I convinced the office to let me out of here for a week. It doesn't.
No, I got a better question. Forget the office. How did you convince your wife to go somewhere with you for a week?
Well, luckily it's for a wedding. So,
on her side of the family?
No, on my side.
Oh, okay.
So, but she likes that person. So, but the week after that, if I understand correctly, the week after that we have Infocom.
Oh, that's right. You're going again.
I'm gone again. So we'll be going to Infocom the first week of June.
Boy, that's the show you want to go to because he's got something brand spanking new.
All these things that I've been hinting at.
Very excited about.
Everything that I've been hinting at for the past 2 years on this show is finally coming to fruition. And I get to show it off at Infocom. So if you've been following along with that, come to Infocom, where I get to finally show it off, and I'm super excited about it. I really want to talk about it. In fact,
and then we'll talk about it the week after Infocom.
Because I've got a couple shows that are specifically for that product after that, after Infocom. So I'm really excited about it. Come check us out at Infocom. It's going to be in Las Vegas if you need another reason to go to Las Vegas, I guess. But yeah.
Well, in that case, I'm Brent McCall at brent.mccall at metroav.com.
Adam Rogers, or adam.rogers at metroav.com.
386-202-6137.
And 6132 for me.
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Reboot early.
Reboot often.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Turn off CEC.
Remember, at least 70 feet on your HD-based
You keep extending it even longer. It's 60 feet.
No, it's 66 and a half feet, which is 70.
There you go.
And there was another one we added.
ArcPut. Hashtag ArcPut.
Yeah, that's an upcoming show.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.